Captain Taman Park stood on the bridge of the UES Resilience, watching the stars through the main window. After 40 years of being stuck in their home solar system, humans were finally allowed to explore beyond Earth. The Galactic Council had given them permission to visit 3 specific star systems. Nothing more. "Captain, we are approaching the Kepler 442 system," said Jiho Lee from his seat at the communication station. His fingers moved quickly over the controls as he checked their position. Taman nodded. "Good work. Take us to the 4th planet. The Council said there might be life there." The ship moved smoothly through space. Taman looked around at his crew. They were all excited about this mission. For most of them, this was their first time leaving the solar system. The Galactic Council had been very clear about the rules. They could explore, but they had to follow strict guidelines. They could not make contact with any species without Council approval. They could not share human technology. They could not stay longer than 30 days in each system. "Sir, I am picking up strange readings from the planet," said So Young Kim, the ship's scientist who studied alien life. She was bent over her scanner, her dark hair falling across her face. "There are definitely living beings down there, but the readings are unlike anything in our databases." "What kind of readings?" Taman asked, walking over to look at her screen. The life forms seem to be made of crystal or some kind of mineral. They are giving off a unique energy signature. "It is beautiful, actually." So Young's eyes lit up with curiosity. Taman felt a mix of excitement and worry. This was exactly what they had hoped to find, but the Council's warnings echoed in his mind. "Can you tell if they are intelligent? The energy patterns suggest organized activity. They might have a complex society." So Young looked up at him. "Captain, this could be our first contact with a truly alien intelligence." "Hey-1, take us into orbit around the planet," Taman ordered. The ship's engineer, a quiet woman with steady hands, adjusted their course. As they got closer to the planet, the readings became stronger. The surface was covered in strange crystal formations that sparkled in the light of the system's twin suns. Beautiful towers of what looked like living glass reached toward the sky. "Captain," Jiho called out, his voice excited, "I am receiving signals from the planet. They are not random. Someone is trying to communicate with us." Taman's heart raced. "Can you understand what they are saying?" "Working on it now. The patterns are complex, but there seems to be a musical quality to their language." Jiho's equipment hummed as it worked to decode the alien signals. After an hour of work, Jiho managed to establish basic communication. The beings on the planet called themselves the Valari. They seemed friendly but nervous about something. "They want to meet with us," Jiho reported, "but they are asking strange questions about something called the Watchers and whether we serve them." Taman frowned. "The Watchers? Ask them what they mean." The conversation that followed was difficult. The Valari's language was like music, and human translators had trouble with the emotional meanings behind their words. But slowly a picture emerged that made the crew uncomfortable. "Captain," So Young said after listening to the translations, "they seem to be afraid of something. They keep mentioning the Great Culling and asking if we are here to take them away." "Take them where?" Taman asked. Before anyone could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. "Sir, 3 large ships just appeared in the system," Hey-1 reported, her voice tense. "They are not human ships." On the main screen, 3 massive vessels appeared. They were sleek and silver, much larger than the Resilience. The design was familiar from Council databases. These were Corvani ships. "This is Ambassador Thulex of the Galactic Council," came a deep voice over their communication system. "Human vessel, you will move away from the planet immediately. You are in violation of first contact protocols." Taman felt confused and angry. "Ambassador, we were given permission to explore this system. We followed all the rules for first contact. The beings on this planet are under Council protection. They are not ready for contact with other species. You will depart immediately." Down on the planet, the Valari were sending desperate messages. Jiho's face went pale as he listened to the translations. "Captain, they are begging us not to leave them. They say the Council ships mean the end comes again." "What do they mean by that?" Taman demanded, but Ambassador Thulex cut into their communications. "Human Captain, you have 30 minutes to leave this system. Any further contact with the planet dwellers will result in serious consequences for your species." Taman watched helplessly as smaller ships launched from the Council vessels and headed toward the planet. The Valari's messages became more frantic. filled with what sounded like crying and fear. "Sir, they are asking us to remember them," Jiho said quietly. "They want us to tell others about what happened here." "Jiho, are you recording everything?" Taemin asked. "Yes, sir. Every signal, every message." The smaller ships reached the planet's surface. Within minutes, all communication from the Volari stopped. The crystal cities went dark. The beautiful energy readings that So Young had detected simply vanished. "What did they do to them?" So Young whispered, staring at her now empty scanner screen. Ambassador Thulex's voice returned. "The contaminated beings have been properly quarantined. Human vessel, you will now return to your home system. Your exploration privileges are suspended pending review of this incident." As the Resilience turned away from the planet, Taemin felt sick. Something was very wrong with what they had just witnessed. The Galactic Council was supposed to protect younger species and help them grow. But what they had just done to the Volari looked more like destruction than protection. "Captain," Haywan said quietly, "the planet's life signs are getting weaker. Whatever they did down there, it is killing the Volari." Taemin stared at the planet shrinking behind them. For 40 years, humans had believed they were lucky to be protected by the wise Galactic Council. They had been told they were too young and dangerous to explore freely. They had accepted being kept in their solar system because the Council knew best. But now Taemin wondered if they had been lied to. Maybe humans were not being protected. Maybe they were being kept as prisoners. And maybe the Galactic Council was not the peaceful organization they claimed to be. "Jiho, make sure those recordings are hidden where the Council cannot find them," Taemin ordered. "Something tells me we are going to need proof of what we saw here." As the stars stretched past them on their journey home, Taemin could not stop thinking about the Volari's final message. They had asked to be remembered. And Taemin promised himself that he would never forget what the Council had done to them. 3 months had passed since the incident at Kepler 442. Captain Taemin Park could not sleep properly. Every night he heard the musical cries of the Volari in his dreams. The official Council report said the beings had been relocated for their safety, but Taemin knew better. He had seen the life readings disappear from So Young's scanners. The Resilience was supposed to be docked at Terra Station for repairs and crew rest. Instead, Taemin had secretly ordered his team to prepare for an unauthorized mission. They were going to find answers. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" asked Haewon Choi, checking the ship's modified engines in the cargo bay. "If the Council finds out we left without permission, they will arrest all of us." "I am sure," Taemin replied. "We cannot pretend nothing happened. Those beings asked us to remember them. That means something." Haewon nodded and returned to her work. Over the past weeks, she had been making secret changes to the ship's systems. Using her knowledge of quantum physics, she had built new communication equipment that could send messages without the Council detecting them. "The quantum entanglement communicator is ready," she announced. "Messages sent through this system will be impossible for the Council to track or block." So Young Kim looked up from her research station. "I have been studying the data we collected from the Volari. There are some very disturbing patterns." "What kind of patterns?" Taemin asked. The Volari showed signs of genetic modification. Someone had changed their DNA to make them less intelligent and less able to reproduce. It was like they were being kept weak on purpose. Jiho Lee joined the conversation.
"I have been analyzing the Council's database of protected species."
"There are over 200 worlds under protection. But here's the strange part. None of these species ever seem to advance beyond a certain level of technology." "What do you mean?" Taemin asked. "Every species reaches roughly the same point of development and then stops. They never get better at space travel. They never develop better weapons. They never improve their science. It is like something is keeping them from growing." The crew exchanged worried looks. Taemin made his decision. "We are going to visit some of these protected worlds. Quietly." 2 weeks later, the Resilience arrived at a system called Zeta Reticuli. According to Council records, it was home to the Zephyrians, energy-based life forms that lived in the gas clouds around the system's largest planet. Using Haewon's new communicator, they were able to contact the Zephyrians without alerting the Council. The response they received was immediate and desperate. "Please, visitors from the stars," came the translated message. "Help us before the collectors return." "Who are the collectors?" So Young asked through the communicator. "The ones who wear the faces of the Council. Every 50 years they come and take our brightest minds. They say it is for advanced education, but those who are taken never return. We grow weaker with each collection. Taemin felt cold. How long has this been happening? For over 3,000 years. We used to travel between stars like you. We used to build great cities in space. Now we can barely survive in these gas clouds. The collectors made sure of that. The crew recorded everything. Over the next month, they visited 6 more protected worlds. Each time they heard the same story. The Nithari, insect-like beings who once had a galaxy-spanning civilization, were now trapped on a single world. The Solmec, shape-shifting ocean dwellers, had forgotten how to leave their planet's seas. Every species told stories of regular visits from council ships. Every species had lost most of their advanced technology. Every species lived in fear of being selected for advancement. It is a pattern, So Young said during one of their secret meetings. The council is not protecting these species. They are farming them. Farming them for what? Asked Haewon. I think I know, said a new voice. They turned to see Bomb Song, the ship's medical officer, entering the room with a data tablet. I have been studying the biological samples we collected. Every species shows the same genetic markers. She displayed her findings on the main screen. These changes to their DNA are not natural. Someone has been deliberately modifying these species to limit their brain development and reduce their population growth. But there is something else. What? Taemin asked. All of these species show signs of having their life energy drained. Not all at once, but slowly over generations. It is like something has been feeding on them. The room fell silent. Jiho finally spoke. I found something in the deep archives. References to something called the Primarchs. According to the oldest records, they were the original leaders of the Galactic Council. They supposedly ascended to a higher level of existence 50,000 years ago. Supposedly? Taemin asked. The records are strange. They mention the Primarchs ascending, but they also talk about regular communion with them. And here is the weird part. Every time there is a communion, the records mention fewer advanced species in the galaxy. Da-Un Yoon, their AI specialist, had been quietly working at her station. Captain, I have been analyzing communication patterns in the Council networks. There are data streams that do not match any known technology. They are too complex, too organized. It is like there is another intelligence controlling parts of the Council's operations. Another intelligence? So Young asked. Something that uses the Council's systems but is not part of them. These data streams always spike just before a species is marked for protection or advancement. Taemin looked at his crew. What are you all saying? I think, Da-Yoon said carefully, that the Galactic Council is not really in control. Something else is using them, something that feeds on intelligent life. And humans are next, Haewon added. Think about it. We have been kept isolated for 40 years. We have been told we are too dangerous, too aggressive. But what if that is exactly what makes us valuable to whatever is really running things? The crew spent the next week gathering more evidence. They found ancient ruins on dead worlds that showed signs of once great civilizations. They discovered that every species in the galaxy had experienced the same pattern. Rapid development followed by council intervention and slow decline. Most disturbing of all, they found evidence that Earth itself had been visited many times over the past century. Small devices had been placed in Earth's major cities. When Da-Un analyzed them, she found they were designed to monitor and influence human development. They have been watching us for generations, she reported. These devices have been subtly affecting our technology and social development. They have been preparing us for something. As they prepared to return to Earth, Taemin gathered his crew one final time. We now know the truth. The Galactic Council is not what it claims to be. Something is using them to control and harvest intelligent species, and humanity is being prepared for the same fate. What do we do? Asked Jiho. We warn everyone. We prepare Earth for what is coming, and we find a way to fight back. But as they entered the Sol system, they found council ships waiting for them. Ambassador Thulex's voice filled their communication system. Human vessel resilience, you have violated multiple council regulations. Prepare to be boarded for inspection and crew detention. Taemin looked at his crew. They had found the truth, but now they had to survive long enough to share it. The real war for humanity's freedom was about to begin. The council boarding party never made it to the Resilience. Just as the Corvani ships moved closer, a small fighter appeared from behind Earth's moon. It fired a single shot at the lead council vessel, not to destroy it but to disable its tractor beam. In the confusion, the fighter pilot sent a quick message. Follow me if you want to live. Jump coordinates attached. Captain Taemin Park did not hesitate. HFY emergency jump, now! The Resilience disappeared into hyperspace just as more council ships arrived. When they emerged, they found themselves in a system that did not appear on any official star charts. Floating in space ahead of them was a massive structure built into an asteroid. This is interesting, said So Young Kim, studying her readings. That base is using technology I've never seen before. It is definitely not human or council. The fighter that had rescued them docked with the asteroid base. A few minutes later, their communications crackled to life. Human ship, this is Captain Shalthus of the Valari Resistance. We need to talk. Taemin's heart jumped. You are Valari? But we saw your people destroyed. Some of us escaped before the collectors arrived. We have been hiding here for months, gathering others who survived council protection. Please dock with our base. What we have to show you will change everything. The Resilience carefully docked with the hidden base. As the crew walked through the asteroid's corridors, they saw something amazing. Beings from dozens of different species worked together. Valari with their crystal bodies, Zephyrians flowing like living energy, Nethari with their insect features, and many others they did not recognize. Shalthus met them in the main chamber. The Valari's crystal body was cracked and dim, showing signs of terrible damage. Welcome, humans. You are the first species to discover the truth before being harvested. That gives us hope. Harvested? Taemin asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. Come, let me show you something that will explain everything. Shalthus led them to a data center where holographic displays showed star maps and ancient records. What do you know about the Ethan civilization? They were the first species to join with the Primarchs, said Jiho. According to council history, they ascended to a higher plane of existence 50,000 years ago. That is the lie they tell, Shalthus said, her crystal voice ringing with anger. The truth is much worse. We found their homeworld. The hologram changed to show a dead planet covered in ruins. The Ethans were not the first to ascend. They were the first to be completely consumed. Consumed by what? Asked So Young. By the things that call themselves the Primarchs. They are not evolved beings from this galaxy. They are parasites from somewhere else, somewhere outside our reality. They arrived 50,000 years ago and took over the bodies of the original council leaders. The hologram showed more images, ancient texts, and archaeological evidence from the ruined world. The beings you call the Primarchs are actually wearing the bodies of their victims like masks. The real council leaders died long ago. Taemin felt sick. So everything the council has done has been directed by cosmic parasites who feed on intelligent life. They set up this system to farm entire civilizations. They let species develop to a certain point, then harvest their life force and consciousness. Dayun Yun stepped forward. That explains the strange data streams I found in council networks. The parasites are using their host bodies to control the entire galactic government. Exactly, said Shalthus, and now they are preparing for the greatest harvest in galactic history. They plan to consume not just individuals, but entire star systems at once. Why now? Asked Taemin. Because they are dying. The parasites have consumed so much life over the millennia that they are running out of food. They need a massive feeding to survive and reproduce. Earth has been chosen as the center of this feeding. The crew exchanged horrified looks. What do you mean? Asked Bombsong. Shalthus activated another display. Your planet has been prepared for decades. The devices your people found in human cities are not just monitors. They are focusing crystals. When activated, they will channel the life force of every human on Earth directly to the Primarchs. How many humans? Taemin asked quietly. All of them. Every man, woman, and child on Earth will die in a matter of hours. Their life energy will be absorbed to feed the parasites and create a new generation of them. The room fell silent. Finally, HFY spoke. When? Soon. Our spies in the council report that the final preparations are almost complete. The harvest will begin within days. So Young looked at the data with tears in her eyes. 8 billion people. They are planning to murder 8 billion people. Not just humans, said another voice. They turned to see a tall being with blue skin and silver eyes approaching.
I am Minsu Kang of the Altarian refugees.
The Primarchs plan to harvest every advanced species in the galaxy simultaneously. Humans are just the appetizer. This is their final feeding, Shalthus explained. After this, they will have enough energy to spread to other galaxies. The entire universe will become their feeding ground. There has to be a way to stop them. Tamin said desperately. Maybe, said Shalthus, but it will require incredible sacrifice. We have found the location of the Primarch's true stronghold. The display changed to show a system at the center of the galaxy. They hide behind a barrier of folded space, but we have learned to detect it. The problem is that their stronghold is protected by the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. What kind of weapons? Asked Yejin Lim, the Resilience's security chief. Reality shapers. Devices that can rewrite the laws of physics in local space. Ships that approach are simply erased from existence. Then how do we fight them? Tamin asked. Minsu Kang answered. By using the one thing they never expected. The one species in the galaxy that they cannot consume. What do you mean? Humans, said Shalthus. Your species is unique. The parasites feed on life force and consciousness. But human consciousness is too chaotic, too individualistic for them to properly digest. You are like poison to them. That is why they have kept you isolated, Minsu added. Not because you are dangerous to the galaxy, but because you are dangerous to them. A single human mind can disrupt their feeding process. Dayun's eyes lit up with understanding. That is why the monitoring devices on Earth were designed differently than the ones used on other species. They were not just watching us, they were trying to change us. Make us more like other species so we could be safely consumed. But it did not work completely. Shalthus said, humans remain too unpredictable, too independent. If we can get humans close enough to the Primarch's feeding chambers, your natural resistance could break their power. You are talking about a suicide mission, Tamin said. Yes, but it is the only way to save not just Earth, but every intelligent species in the galaxy. Tamin looked at his crew. They had come so far from that first day when they discovered the Velari. Now they faced a choice that would determine the fate of billions of lives. How many ships do we have? He asked. Not enough, admitted Minsu. But we have something better. We have the truth. And we have humans. As alarms began ringing throughout the base, Shalthus looked grim. They have found us. The final battle is about to begin. The explosions that tore through the feeding chamber's hull should have been impossible. The Primarch's technology was supposed to be beyond any weapon in the galaxy. But human presence was making their reality-shaping devices malfunction. Captain Tamin Park led his team through the twisted corridors of the alien structure. The walls seemed to be made of living darkness that moved when no one was looking directly at it. Strange lights pulsed in patterns that made their eyes hurt. The life support readings are off the charts, reported Bombsong, checking her medical scanner. There are thousands of beings alive in here, but their life signs are weak. They are being kept alive while their life force is slowly drained, explained Dr. Su-Jin An, the quantum physicist who had joined their mission. The parasites feed gradually to avoid killing their food sources too quickly. As they moved deeper into the structure, they began to see the horrible truth. Floating in energy fields were beings from dozens of species, including humans. Their bodies were motionless, but their minds were trapped in nightmare visions while their life force was harvested. There, pointed So Young Kim, I see human prisoners. In a chamber filled with glowing tubes, they found dozens of humans suspended in a strange liquid. Most were unconscious, but a few were aware enough to look at their rescuers with desperate eyes. Get them out of there, Tamin ordered. But as Haewon Choi worked to break open the containment tubes, alarms began echoing through the structure. They know we are here, said Yejin Lim, checking her weapons. A new voice filled the corridor, speaking in a language that seemed to bypass their ears and go directly into their minds. Humans, you should not be here. Your consciousness is painful to us. Good, Tamin replied aloud. We are just getting started. The voice continued, now speaking in English. You do not understand what you are doing. We have fed on this galaxy for 50,000 years. We bring order to chaos. We control the spread of dangerous species. By murdering entire civilizations, accused Unseo Park as she helped a rescued human woman walk. By preventing the universe from destroying itself. Intelligent life always leads to war, to suffering, to extinction. We consume them before they can spread their violence to other galaxies. That is not your choice to make, Tamin said angrily. It became our choice when we grew beyond the need for physical form. You still think like primitive creatures bound to single bodies. We are eternal. We are necessary. As they moved through the feeding chamber, they began to see the true scope of the Primarch's operation. Chamber after chamber filled with prisoners from across the galaxy. Massive computers processing the harvested life force. And at the center of it all, something that made them stop in horror. "Those are not machines," whispered Da Yun, staring at the central processing units. She was right. What they had thought were computers were actually the hollowed-out bodies of the original council members. Their nervous systems rewired to process stolen consciousness. "The real Primarchs," said Mi-young Cho, a former council prisoner with psychic abilities who had escaped during the confusion. "They have been using their bodies as living computers for millennia. Can we free them?" asked Taemin. "They are beyond saving," Mi-young replied sadly. "But their suffering can end." As they approached the central chamber, the structure around them began to shake. "The feeding process is accelerating," warned Sujin. "They are trying to complete the harvest before we can stop them." "How long do we have?" asked Taemin. "Minutes. The energy streams from Earth are reaching critical levels." In the final chamber, they found the source of the Primarch's power. It was not a machine or a creature, but something that existed partially outside normal space-time. A writhing mass of energy that spoke without words and thought without a brain. "You are too late," it communicated. "The harvest is complete. Your species dies now." But as it spoke, something unexpected happened. The mass of energy began to weaken. The stolen life force it had been consuming was becoming harder to process. "It is us," realized Yunseo. "Our presence here is disrupting the feeding process." "Not just disrupting it," added Mi-young, whose psychic abilities let her see deeper into the entity's nature. "Human consciousness is like acid to them. We are actually hurting it." The Primarch entity tried to retreat but found itself trapped. For 50,000 years it had fed on ordered, controlled minds. Human consciousness was chaotic, unpredictable, impossible to digest properly. "Free the others," Taemin ordered. "If human minds can hurt this thing, imagine what all the free minds in the galaxy can do." Working together, the team began destroying the containment systems throughout the feeding chamber. As each group of prisoners was freed, their consciousness added to the psychic storm that was tearing at the Primarch entity. Across the galaxy, the energy streams that had been draining entire worlds suddenly reversed. Life force that had been stolen was flowing back to its sources. Dead worlds began to show signs of life again. "The network is collapsing," reported Da-yoon from a control station. "The parasites in the council ships are losing their connection to the central entity." On 1,000 worlds, council forces suddenly stopped their operations as the beings controlling them withered and died. The freed crews looked around in confusion, trying to remember years or decades of lost time. But the Primarch entity was not finished. "If we cannot feed, then nothing will survive. We will collapse this entire region of space rather than face extinction." The feeding chamber began to implode. Reality itself started breaking down around them. "Everyone to the ships," Taemin ordered. "Now!" As they ran through corridors that were folding in on themselves, carrying rescued prisoners, the structure around them dissolved into mathematical chaos. But human presence continued to disrupt the entity's final attack. "It cannot control the collapse properly while we are here," shouted Sujin over the noise of reality tearing apart. "Our chaotic consciousness is interfering with its calculations." They reached their ships just as the feeding chamber completed its self-destruction. But instead of the massive explosion that should have consumed several star systems, the collapse remained contained. Human consciousness had forced it to follow rules that limited its destructive power. In the days that followed, as rescue ships from a dozen species arrived to help the survivors, the full scope of what had happened became clear. The parasites that had controlled the Galactic Council for 50,000 years were dead. Their victims were free, and humanity had become the species that saved the galaxy. "What happens now?" asked So-young as they watched former council worlds celebrate their freedom. "Now we rebuild," said Taemin. "But this time we do it right. No species controls another. No one gets to decide who lives and who dies." "And if other threats come from outside the galaxy?" asked Yejin. Taemin smiled grimly. "Then they will learn what the Primarchs learned. Humans do not make good victims, and we do not let anyone hurt our friends." As the Resilients prepared to return to Earth, where the celebration of humanity's survival was still ongoing, Taemin received a message from the new Galactic Assembly. Dozens of freed species wanted humanity to lead the effort to explore beyond their galaxy, to watch for other threats like the Primarchs. "They want us to be the galaxy's immune system," he told his crew. "Are we ready for that responsibility?" asked Haiwan. Taimin looked out at the stars, thinking of all the species they had helped free, all the lives they had saved. We better be. Because if we have learned anything, it is that the universe is full of dangers, but it is also full of friends worth protecting. In the end, humanity's greatest strength had not been their technology or their weapons. It had been their refusal to be controlled, their chaotic creativity, and their willingness to fight for others. The galaxy was free and humans had become its guardians. The darkness had been unmasked and the light of freedom would never be hidden again. The Council fleet that arrived at the hidden base was massive. 50 warships surrounded the asteroid, their weapons charging with deadly energy. But Captain Taimin Park noticed something strange about their formation. "They are not trying to destroy us," he said, watching the tactical display. "They are trying to capture us alive." Shalfis nodded grimly. "The parasites want to study human resistance before the harvest begins. They cannot afford any surprises." Through the base's communication system, Ambassador Thulex's voice echoed. "Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Resist and you will spend your final days in our research chambers." "Not very diplomatic for an ambassador," muttered Jiho Li. "That is because he is not really an ambassador anymore," said Wu Jin Han, stepping into the command center. The former council diplomat looked tired but determined. "I have been working with the resistance for 2 years. The being you call Thulex died months ago. What wears his body now is pure parasite." Taimin studied the tactical situation. "How many ships do we have?" 12 fighters and 3 light cruisers, replied Yejin Lim. "We are badly outnumbered." "Numbers do not matter if we cannot win," said Yunseo Park, Taimin's sister who had arrived with a group of refugees from Earth. As a neural specialist, she had been studying the parasite's mind control techniques. "The real problem is that most of the Council fleet crews are still alive inside their bodies. If we destroy the ships, we kill innocent beings. Then we do not destroy them," Taimin decided. "We free them." Yunseo looked surprised. "Free them how? You said you have been developing technology to break psychic control. Can you broadcast it?" "In theory, yes. But I would need to get close to their ships, and the signal would only work for a few minutes before the parasites adapt." "A few minutes might be enough," said Hyunwoo Jang, the tactical expert who had escaped from a council prison camp. "I have a plan, but it will require perfect timing and incredible risk." As Hyunwoo explained his strategy, Taimin realized how desperate their situation truly was. They were not just fighting for their own lives anymore. Intelligence reports showed that the harvest preparations were accelerating across the galaxy. "The devices on Earth are charging," reported Daeun Yoon from her computer station. "My contacts in Earth's communication networks say strange energy readings are appearing in every major city." "How long do we have?" asked So Young Kim. "Less than 72 hours before the focusing crystals reach full power." Taimin made his decision. "We split our forces. Half of us will execute Hyunwoo's plan to break the mind control on the Council fleet. The other half will make an immediate run for the Galactic core." "That is suicide," said Min Soo Kang. "We need more ships, more weapons." "We need more time," Taimin corrected. "If we can reach the Primarch's stronghold and disrupt their control even briefly, it might delay the harvest long enough for Earth's defenses to organize." "What defenses?" asked Wu Jin. "Earth's military has no idea what is coming." "Then we better make sure they find out," said Taimin. He turned to his communications officer. "Jiho, use the quantum communicator to send everything we know to Earth Defense Command. All our evidence, all our recordings, everything. The Council will detect the transmission," Jiho warned. "Good. Let them know we are not going quietly." The battle began an hour later. Yunseo's neural disruptor signal worked better than expected. As resistance ships flew past the Council vessels broadcasting the liberation frequency, entire crews suddenly remembered who they truly were. The result was chaos in the Council fleet. Ships that had been preparing to fire on the base suddenly turned their weapons on each other, as freed crews fought against parasites still in control. "It is working," shouted Yejin as she watched 3 Council cruisers break formation and begin attacking their former allies. But the victory was temporary. "The parasites are adapting faster than I thought," Yunseo reported. "The neural disruption is becoming less effective." "Then we leave now," Taimin ordered. "All ships capable of hyperspace jump, prepare for immediate departure to the Galactic core." As the Resilience and 5 other ships prepared to jump, alarms rang throughout the ship. "Captain," called Haywan from the engine room, "I am detecting massive energy buildups across the galaxy. The harvest is beginning early." On the main screen, they could see energy beams connecting planets to something in deep space. Entire worlds were beginning to dim as their life force was drained away. "Earth?" Taman asked quietly. "Still safe, but the focusing crystals are beginning to resonate. We have maybe 18 hours. Then we better move fast." The jump to the galactic core took 6 hours. When they emerged, they found themselves in a region of space that seemed to bend and twist around them. Reality itself looked unstable. "The space-time distortions are incredible," So Young reported. "It is like the entire area has been folded in on itself." "There," pointed Daun. Energy readings suggest a massive structure hidden behind the distortion field. As they approached, the distortions suddenly cleared, revealing the Primarch's true stronghold. It was not a space station or a planet. It was something that hurt to look at directly, a structure that existed in too many dimensions at once. "My God," whispered Bombsong. "What is that thing?" "The feeding chamber," said Shalthus, whose ship had managed to follow them. "This is where they process the life force of entire civilizations." Around the impossible structure, they could see streams of energy flowing in from across the galaxy. Each stream represented billions of lives being consumed. "The reality shapers are activating," Hyun-woo warned. "They have detected us." Space around their small fleet began to change. The laws of physics started breaking down. Some ships simply vanished as the area of space they occupied was edited out of existence. "All ships emergency scatter pattern," Taemin ordered. "We need to get at least one ship to the feeding chamber." "Captain," said Yunseo urgently, "I am detecting something else. The structure is not just feeding on alien species. There are humans inside it." "What?" "The energy patterns match human life signs. They have been taking humans for decades, keeping them alive to study our resistance to their feeding process." Taemin felt a surge of rage. "Then we save them too." As the reality shapers continued their attack, the Resilience dove toward the feeding chamber. The closer they got, the more unstable space became around them. But Taemin also noticed something else. "The distortions are weaker near us," he realized. Yunseo was right. Human consciousness is disrupting their technology. "It is not just disrupting it," Diane said with excitement. "I think our presence is actually damaging the feeding chamber itself." "Look at the energy readings," she was right. The streams of life force flowing into the structure were becoming unstable wherever the human ships approached. "We can hurt them," Taemin said with grim satisfaction. "But we need to get inside that thing." "I am detecting docking ports," reported Yejin. "But they are designed for ships much larger than ours." "Then we make our own entrance," Taemin decided. "Haywan, prepare the emergency charges. We are going to blast our way inside." As the Resilience approached the feeding chamber, Taemin looked back at Earth's star, barely visible in the distance. 18 hours to save 8 billion people and stop the destruction of galactic civilization. "This is either going to be the greatest rescue in history," he said, "or the most spectacular failure." "Let us make sure it is the rescue," said So Young firmly. The final assault on the Primarch's stronghold was about to begin.